Welcome to a Friday Reads, where I talk about what I read, what I'm reading, what I hope to get to next. I have finished one thing. I am in the middle of two things. I have something on the horizon. I'm feeling good about it. And this sweater, if you want like lore, is the sweater I wore in my first video ever on YouTube, like 6 years ago, 5.5 years ago, a time ago. And so whenever I wear it and I happen to be filming, I'm like, oh, that was so long ago. Look at you. Look where you've come. And I guess, like, I don't private or, like, hide any of my videos. You could go look at it. It's not that interesting. It's a TBR. So you guess you could look at my January TBR for 2020. But let's just get into what have I read. I have finished one thing. I have finished The River Has Roots. So I'm officially 11 for 12 for my TBR spin wheel. Pretty exciting. This is the new Amar El-Motar, one of the authors for This Is How You Lose a Time War, and it's a novella that has been very loved this year, a very hyped novella. It also has great production in terms of like the book itself. Like it has a lot of art within the book and integrated with the text. So it's not like a picture book, but it does provide like a layered experience that I enjoyed. I did immersion read this. So if you're someone who's like, did you do the audiobook, Angela? I told you to do the audiobook. Rest assured. I immersion read it with the audiobook. It was a good time. It has this timeless quality of a lot of fairy tales or folk tales sort of thing. We have these people who kind of live on the edge of fairy, and they have this love of music, and they have this connection with the nature magic, and the grammar magic is so interesting in its plausibility and its loosey-goosiness, and like there is obviously a bad actor and how we get our revenge. It felt familiar, but also unique. And at first I was like, this is fine. And then it did a thing, and I'm like, I'm invested. I must know how we wrap this up. And I also really like the acknowledgements. There's like an acknowledgement to one of her old music teachers, but also an acknowledgement for how this story can be connected to our today and everything like that. And I think it just really highlights how like some people might read this story and not connect it to our present day, but how a lot of times art is just inextricably tied to how we as humans exist, and how humans exist is always and has always been a political situation, right? But the thing I really liked about this is the short story that's at the back of it, which I didn't know was there. And at first I was a little like, how dare you sneak in this short story when I thought I had X amount of time left, and actually these other 30 pages are a completely different thought. They are not connected to the novella, but I think the short story is incredibly strong. I think it sticks with me more, and it's been a few days since I've read this. And I read this all in one day with Evie on her channel. We did sprints, a couple of the people were there, and it was just really fun. And I thought I had so much time left, and I didn't. And I had this short story, and the short story was so interesting. It's about this man who has this issue with his back, and he's trying to remember how he got it or his past, and like as he's going to the switch to get it healed, he's having to confront things that he's done. And I just found it so engaging. And it's so interesting because both of these stories in here are kind of tales of justice and revenge, and there's such different twists on them. Like one of them is the perspective of the victim, and then the short story is the perspective of the person who did the wrong, and it was just so cool. So yeah, I really like this. It was a good time, and now I am 11 for 12 for my TBR spin wheel, which brings me a lot of joy. I'm still in the middle of the Reformatory. Let's bring her up. Let's bring this bad boy up. She's heavy. She's thick. I am pretty far. I am getting into the end game. I think I have about 150 pages left-ish. This is just like, ask anyone who's read the Reformatory. It's just incredibly hard. And as you probably saw in my wrap-up when I was talking about my best friend's exorcism, I just was getting overloaded by how much injustice was being forced in my face, and this was just a lot longer. And it was my audiobook, and the other one was my physical book, so I just also wasn't in my car as much. And so in this one, it's been interesting because it did a supernatural thing that I thought it was doing, and it didn't like wait too long. Because at first I was like, is this gonna be some like late game twist? No. Reasonably, we catch on pretty early what's happening with that supernatural thing. We had a perspective of like the what do they call him? The warden of the Reformatory, and what a chapter. She did this with the Ghost House too, where she gave me a perspective of a character who like I didn't really want to be in their head, but it was also so enriching to be in their head. That's like the same thing here. I do like that this isn't just Robbie's story, it's also her sister's story, and how everything just is so interconnected. It isn't just about the injustices done to him, it's about the injustices done to their dad and how that bleeds into their community and how it affects everyone. Like, we even just had a conversation with one of the other kids at the Reformatory about what will happen to him now because of certain plans that are going to be put in place. Nothing is isolated, everything's connected, everything's wrong. So yeah, I'm terrified. I don't know if this is going to end well or cathartically or anything like that. I just know things are bad. That's what I know. And man, poor Robbie and Gloria, they're just truly put in no-win situations. And it pretty seamlessly goes from real-life horror, historical fiction, to horror. It does that pretty well. And I see why, like, when a lot of people had seen Sinners, and it's like, books you should read if you like Sinners. And, like, this one came up a lot. And I see that, especially because part of Sinners as a movie is like a historical drama, like the first half of it. And that is very much here. Now, I will see come the end, because I think I'm getting to the part in the book, like, where Sinners, the movie, becomes more of its horror, supernatural tropiness. And so I do actually think, in terms of, like, structure, they are very similar. This is 20 years ahead, but, you know. It's just wild. It's almost like worse sometimes reading about the 1950s, because it shouldn't be as backwards as it is. And in many ways today we just call things different names and we're still pretty bad. But it's just like 1950s, like my grandparents were born in the 1940s, you know? It's not that long ago. The other thing I'm in the middle of, and I finally have my edition, and she's so thick and she's so pretty, and that's The Sovereign by C.L. Clarke. Look at her. She's glorious. I got her from Hexagon Books, and she's in such good condition, and she brings me so much joy. It is such an aggressively red cover. Like, how is it going to look? I actually haven't looked at her with the other books in the series, so let's stack them together. Oh, look at that stack. That is aesthetically pleasing. Thank you, Orbit, for that. Don't worry, I'll put the books back up eventually. So, The Sovereign, C.L. Clarke. I keep holding heavy books today, and it's gonna really get on my wrists' nerves. I am at chapter 19, so 145 pages in to about a 570 page book. It picks up right after The Faithless, which is really satisfying. Sometimes when you go from a book 2 to a book 3, there's kind of a time skip or something. And in this case, we had big changes at the end of book 2, and we are dealing with the repercussions of those changes right away. And I think thematically, one of my favorite things that we're grappling with early on in this book is we have a lot of characters who have been victims of the system / trying to change systems. And they are slowly or rapidly becoming that which they hate. And I'm really excited to see if we are going to commit to that full stop, or if they're going to catch themselves and get out of it. We have multiple different forces too. Like, I think sometimes in a rebellion story, you can have the rebels and the government, or whoever's in charge, the authoritarian figure. In this case, like, we have the Empire, and we get that through Luca and what she's trying to do. We have the rebels, those who have succeeded. We also have those that don't really have a place or a home. We have the rebels in the Empire who are like, that's their sovereign territory, and they also don't like their authoritarian dictator. We have the country next to them. Like, we have all of these moving pieces, and it really highlights how heavy things are and how complicated and how people can take advantage of certain situations. And there is, like, natural forces on top of the human forces and the magical forces, and it's just like, I'm having a good time. Although I did just, like, make a message because one of the characters, I'm like, oh, so you're cracking now? So you're simply falling apart. Oh, poor character that I will not name. And so it's just really fun to be back in this book. It's just really engaging. It definitely did something that I should have seen coming, but didn't, in terms of relationship dynamics. So if you want a queer story, this is very queer. It hits a couple letters of that alphabet in ways that I didn't expect us to go, and I'm actually kind of excited about, and it made some of my favorite tension scenes. Like, we had a ballroom dance scene, which, if you know me, you know it's my bread and butter. So yeah, I need to get this done soon because in a week I am interviewing C.L. Clarke. I don't know when that'll be up on the channel, but I'm very excited, especially because all signs are pointing to me having a satisfactory conclusion to this trilogy. This is definitely just as strong as at least The Faithless. My favorite is still currently The Unbroken, but The Unbroken was, lightning in a bottle and maybe quite possibly one of the most perfect, stories for me. Next up on my list after I finish the Reformatory, probably, because that's my audiobook, is I have the audiobook for Rouge Street, because my local book club is reading the first 2 novellas in this. I'll probably read all 3 novellas. Ooh, look at that 1.5 space type font. That's nice. There's a translator note in here. That's cool. I don't know if these are interconnected or not. I think they might be. It says, one of the most highly celebrated young Chinese writers, 3 dazzling novellas of Northeast China, mixing realism, mysticism, and noir. So yeah, I have no idea how interconnected these are. I don't really know their genre other than what I just read. So it should be a good time, or bare minimum, a good conversation. I'm like a sucker for that. And we only have 1 book club this month. So if I miss this, then I have to wait all the way to December to see my friends. And that seems sad. So that's for sure what I'm reading there. And then I don't know what I'll do next. This would probably at least get me to the new The Strength of the Few release next Tuesday. That comes out next Tuesday. I don't have work. I probably have work to do, but I don't have to teach. And I did pre-order the audiobook, and I showed in my TBR how I have the physical copy, so maybe that's a thing I'll do. In terms of what I'm watching, we're finishing up What We Do in the Shadows, and I am really enjoying season 8 of Smallville. We just had a thing with Lana and Clark that I'm just like, wow, that was good. That was good. I mean, not necessarily happy, but it was good. I've actually been really enjoying a lot of the threads that they've been playing with this season. It feels really comic booky. Yes, we're not quite doing Superman, but we're playing enough with it that I'm enjoying it. So yeah, I'm really excited because season 8 through 10, completely unmarked territory. Also, my neighbor's car decided to just go vroom. So if you heard that, whatever. They get to do what they want, and I get to complain about it, as is the suburbs. But yeah, that's basically what I'm watching. So yeah, and also, I guess on Instagram, I started using my M.A. Carrick pattern deck to sometimes help me with my analysis paralysis. So if you don't already follow me on Instagram, sometimes I throw things on my stories more often lately. I'm making an attempt. I don't post on Instagram, yet. We'll see if that ever changes. I don't find the urge to post pictures, but I like to post things on my stories sometimes. But let me know what you're reading, doing, watching, and if you just want to leave an emoji to let me know you're here, leave a river or a water, for the river has roots. And otherwise, if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.